I thought I would do like a small video of like fantasy books I have read. It's something that I quite enjoy, but I don't really have like a full grasp on for like what to know, what to read for fantasy, but I do like it. Like there's been so many books I'm like, I love that. So I do think it's a genre I enjoy, but I want to have more knowledge on, I want to read more. So obviously guys, leave comments of fantasy recs, please. I think possibly the first fantasy book I read. With fantasy, I've got like, it's more of a broad genre, like I don't really know. I feel like if you get it, you get it. The first one I read was Heartless by Marissa Mayer. My cover was actually the white one with the red on it, and I loved it, and it was like red writing but it was like shiny. It was beautiful. I love this. So basically it is like a prequel for Alice in Wonderland, and it's about how the Red Queen becomes the Red Queen. I ate it up. It was so good. I sold it and I wish I kept it because it was so good. I'd love to be able to reread it because it was amazing, and it was like this girl and basically how she was falling in love, but it was like sort of forbidden almost, and it shows how she became the person she is, and it was amazing. Like the transition, I just didn't really know where it was going. Like I didn't really know what was going to happen, and I loved it. So it's one that I would always recommend to people. I would probably say it's quite good as well for like getting into reading, specifically like sort of troped reading. I thought it was amazing, so I definitely think it's one I'll probably try and reread, like buy and reread, because it was so good. One I read like probably just after I finished Heartless is like, I don't think it would be classed as fantasy, but because of what happens in it, I class it as a fantasy. It is Lost Christmas by David Logan. I've never heard of this book anywhere. I've never seen anyone talk about it, and it was amazing. In fact, that's a lie. There was one person I posted on my private story, and this one person replied and said that it was amazing, and that's like the only time. And it's basically following this boy, and I believe he has a pet. Can't even remember much about it, but it's one that I would love to reread as well. I binged it. I think I read it in like one day, and it was about this person who, like this young boy, and he's like, something happens, like there's a tragedy, and he's sort of needing other people to help him, and then it gets to the end and it's just this insane plot twist, and the plot twist is what makes it fantasy. So I don't know how to explain it because it's very normal. Like it's like life now, like in London, and this like insane thing happens to this boy, and then it's just, I don't know, just read it because it is really good. Like you will like it, and it's festive as well. It's like Christmas, and it kind of puts things in perspective, and it makes you appreciate things as well. So it's a good time to read it at Christmas time. So then I sort of went into actual proper deep fantasy, and I read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I love that. This book is thick, by the way. It's like, it's a thick boy, and I read that so quick. I think I read it in like 2 days. It was insane. I just didn't ever want to put it down. It was like this girl who, I believe she's in a castle, or she's like in this really protected thing. She's not really meant to be out, but she sneaks out. She finds this guy, and I can't really remember what happens after that. I was really in love with it though. But it was really good. It was like, again, it was sort of like forbidden and maybe a bit of kidnapping actually. And like they have spears and there's like big fights and stuff, so it is more traditional fantasy. I read the first one and then hadn't ordered like the other ones, and because I read it so quick, like I ordered it and I was like, oh my goodness, like I finished it, like what am I going to do now? But it's okay because you will never guess what I had waiting for me to read. Bam! A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. Top tier fantasy, if you will. I was obsessed with the ACOTAR series, and I think it's because I sort of read it during like the second lockdown, and I binged it. I was obsessed, so I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'm pretty sure I went straight on to the second one. Mr. Fury? I don't really know their names. I'm not gonna lie, I know the first one, I know it's ACOTAR. I know the last one's Silver Flames or whatever. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved Hamlin until I read the second book. You guys just need to read it. It's so good. It does have a lot of hype, and I can't disagree with it. I think it's amazing. So I 100% am on the ACOTAR hype train. I love it. And I don't know if I loved it so much because it was like COVID and there wasn't really a lot going on, but I honestly thought it was so good and I recommend it to everyone. I always tell people to read it. If people like start reading it and I'm not too sure, I'm like, keep going because it gets better. And it does, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure I binge read the whole ACOTAR series until Silver Flames, and then I went back to the second book in the From Blood and Ash series. I can't remember what it's called, but it did get quite repetitive. It was a bit long. I think I maybe read 3 of them in total and then I just gave in, or maybe I'd read the second and wanted to get the third, but I was like, someone had said that it was really repetitive again, and I was like, I can't really be bothered paying that much money for it to be very repetitive because they're quite expensive. I think it's because they are so thick. They're like £20 odd, and I just didn't really want to pay it. And then obviously, like, moving on from that, it gets more, I don't know if it gets better or not. Once I finished ACOTAR and From Blood and Ash, I was desperate for something to give me that sort of feeling again, and I couldn't find anything, so I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I binged that. I did binge that book. I didn't even like it that much, which was really, I don't like saying it, it just wasn't, I don't know, just the guy, I feel like everyone thinks the same, but when you find out that he has a tail, it ruins it. Carden, I think his name is, maybe? It ruined it. I didn't like him. It wasn't that bad, but I think after reading From Blood and Ash and A Court of Thorns and Roses, it just didn't really live up to that. It wasn't quite as similar as I'd hoped it was going to be, so I didn't enjoy it as much, I think. So just to clarify, the reason I didn't like The Cruel Prince as much was because I'd made my own expectations for it and it didn't meet them. So it's not anything to do with how it was written, it's not anything to do with the plot or the story itself or the author. It was literally like that I'd made my own assumptions of what it was going to be and wanted it to fit that, the really specific mould I'd made for it, even though I didn't. A lot of the things I buy and then don't read them for ages. So I had this sat on my shelf. What's it called? Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I'd had that sat on my shelf zonks, and the second one came out and I rushed and bought it without reading the first one. So I read the first one and I loved it. Insane. So good. Read the second one, exact same, loved it. Insane. So good. And then obviously I'd read it basically as it came out, so I had to wait ages for the third one. Don't know if I prefer Crescent City to ACOTAR. I think I love ACOTAR because of the feeling it gave me, and my friend said it very specifically. She said that there's something about ACOTAR that reminds her of being like sort of 14 or something in your bed, like staying up late reading, like that sort of feeling that it gives you. I think that's why I love ACOTAR, because although I wasn't 14, I was much older, I was like 21 or something, but I was like COVID, so there was nothing happening. I was just binge reading it and I grew really attached to it, so that will always have like a really sort of special place in my heart. But I love the Crescent City characters, the plot, everything about it. Crescent City is my favourite. It is arguably more mature, and also the characters. I love Bryce. I love like how real she is, but also just unreal. Obviously she's not real at all, but there's just something about her that is so insane. And I love Hunt, he's so lovely. But I did read the third one, and there's one scene in the third Crescent City book, and I think if you know what I'm talking about, you'll understand straight away. And it was just so gruesome that last night I was literally in bed and I was trying to, like, you know, calm myself down so I could sleep and stuff, and just, you know, running through thoughts in my head. Why on earth did that pop into my head? And that's all I could think about was this one really gruesome scene, and I was like, I can't sleep now. It is really intense. I love the world building. I feel like at first it's really sort of intense when you first read it, but you need to stick with it and it gets so much better. And I love how everything is built up so much, and then in the end, like, if you read Crescent City, like, I promise you it's not a mistake, you will love it, but you need to stick with it and you need to try and invest yourself into the world, because then it's so much better if you're like fully like encaptured with this world that they're living in. Then obviously on the sort of Sarah J Maas fantasy train, I did read the Throne of Glass series, and I did start with Throne of Glass. I didn't do the Assassin's Blade. I didn't mind it. It was not my favourite. I really wanted to just be like so involved with it, because so many people talk about how it's like their favourite and how amazing it is, and I'm not saying it's not, because it is, but just out of her other series, like, it just wasn't my favourite. It was really good, and I did enjoy reading it, but I don't think it's one that I will like that much. I feel like because it was their first one, it's not going to have quite the same vibe as ACOTAR or Crescent City, only because they're newer. So as an artist and writer, Sarah J Maas, like, everything's going to progress, like, that's just fact. The more you do something, the more you perfect it, shall we say. I'm not saying that Throne of Glass is bad, it's not insane, exceptional, but it didn't give me the same vibe as ACOTAR or Crescent City, and I think that's why I did struggle a bit more to read it. Also, really sad, TMI, but when I was in the middle of reading the series, really sadly, my gran passed away, and it just kind of tainted it. I didn't really want to go back and read it because it reminded me of that situation, so I stopped reading it. And then the spookiest thing was I took the book, so this is kind of TMI, I took the book to my gran's flat when I was visiting her before she passed, and I remember having it back in like my mum's in my house, like, I was in my bag, like, you know, you're a reader, you carry a book everywhere you go, like, this book goes with me. We also cleared my gran's flat out, never found it. I've recently went through all my books, could not find this book. The one that I had, couldn't find it anywhere. I was halfway through it, so I know, like, I don't know where it's gone. Like, I wouldn't have gotten rid of it, I would have kept it, don't know where it's gone. So I've had to rebuy it. So the covers are different because I bought Empire Storms. I bought Empire of Storms just after they brought out the new covers, so it's not the same as the old ones that I have. So that's a wee bit gutting. Not the end of the world, guys, but it's a wee bit gutting. Because of the situation, I didn't ever finish reading the Throne of Glass series, but it's something I'm going to go back and do. I've been saying for months I'm going to do it, and then I keep getting like reading other books on my TBR or buying new ones and really reading them before finishing my TBR. So I think I'm going to do it in the new year at some point, is finish the Throne of Glass series. I think they're all going to tie in a little bit more. So I want to finish them, because I think in the third Crescent City there is callbacks to the Throne of Glass series, which I didn't pick up on because I've not read it enough. Sorry. So if you are going to read anything Sarah J Maas, I believe the best order is Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, then Crescent City. So good. And I think you do sort of need to have a bit of an idea of what's going on, because they are all interlinked very loosely just now, but moving down the line I think that will change. Read them and then sort of go on, like, search up and you will see like all these theories, all these like points, like branches that are like hoo, and it's insane. You need to sort of do your research to understand fully what was going on in these books, but they are chef's kiss, so good. I also don't know if I'd class it as fantasy, but I did read the Song of Achilles. No, I don't think I'd class it as fantasy, but that was insane. That was really good. So I've not read like an awful lot of fantasy books. It is something that I do enjoy, so it would be good to have more of an idea of ones. Drop some recommendations below. Really, all I want is like book series that's gonna feel like it has to take over my world, like it's gonna be my whole personality. I want to feel like so attached to these characters, and like something with insane like love, like an insane love plot, to feel like it's taken over, that it's all I can think about 24/7. That is what I want. I've not felt that way about something in a long while. I've loved things, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like something's completely taken over my life, and I'd like that. So if anyone can drop any recommendations, that would be great. fantasy recommendations, like I've said a million times, please comment them below. I do love. And let me know what you guys are reading now. Because it's December, I am reading Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. Are you surprised? Nah, definitely not. I love it. And it's really cute. I think afterwards I'm going to read the Christmas Jigsaw Murders. I started it and got so far and then wanted something a little lighter and more sweet. So I stopped and read Christmas Tree Farm, but I'll go back to it. I hope all you guys have a good Christmas and New Year. If I don't post another video before, I'll probably try to. I've got another day in life, which you should watch by the way, is my day in my life, so I'm trying to do more of them. And maybe like a reading wrap up for 2024. But yeah, I hope you all have a good Christmas and New Year.